everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Female Empowered Podcast. I'm your host, Krista Gurka, and I have a guest today, a recurring guest. We love having Danielle Hayden here, founder and CEO of Kickstart Accounting, Inc. We'll get rid of the Inc. maybe one day, but one day. So Kickstart Accounting, Inc., she is our money team in our business mentorship groups, and she's a wealth of information when it comes to finances, money, numbers. And what I love about having Danielle in the group as well is I have my opinions based on I just come at it from a different perspective than you do. And I love when you can, I don't want to say push back, because that's not pushback, give a different view of looking at things from a real financial objective side. So I wanted, when this podcast topic came up, I was like, I want to ask Danielle if she'll come
I'm always
do it
happy
with
to be
me.
here.
And you said yes.
Always happy to be here. Love it.
Awesome. So what we're actually going to talk about is investing in our business when it comes time for equipment investment, growth investment. It could be expansion, like things like that. Usually when we expand, it comes with buying more equipment. So, and there are different ways that we can grow in terms of budgeting, in terms of financing, credit, debt, capital, lines of credit are my favorite thing all the time, which I don't think a lot of people know is available to them. I didn't know was available to me for a long, long time. So for those people that don't know you, maybe this is the first time they're just tuning into the podcast. Will you give us a little history, what your company does, and a little bit of background about Kickstart Accounting, and then we'll get into the questions.
Yeah. So at Kickstart Accounting Inc., we use bookkeeping as a vehicle to help business owners understand their numbers to make better business decisions. And that's really it. Like, we want to bring access to the financial information to women and to small business owners. We didn't historically have access to this type of information. It's really, how do we manage our business? We don't have to just do bookkeeping to file our taxes. We don't want to spend money just to save $1 on our taxes. We really want to be healthy, sustainable, profitable business owners, and knowing your numbers to manage your business is the way to do that. I started this business 9 years ago, which is absolutely crazy. I came from corporate accounting. I loved my time at corporate. I was a chief financial officer. And so it's really unique in the way that we do things, because I take all of the experience that I gained from being a CFO and have tweaked everything I learned to fit a small business owner, including myself. So like, everything I talk about, I implement, and then I also implement that with the thousands of clients we worked with.
And it's great. And I think I also think your approach and delivery in speaking with female business owners is very, well, I can speak for myself. We speak very similarly, and you get straight to the point. It's not a lot of fluff and, well, maybe and numbers is black and white, really, with a story behind it. Like the numbers, it's like weight on a scale. Okay. So if I weigh 160 pounds, I weigh 160 pounds. It's the story I tell myself about the 160 pounds that really makes sometimes more of a difference. And so I love that you come in and you're like, there's no A's or F's when it just is.
You're not failing at business. There is no report card. There's just lessons to be learned. I really like that analogy. I talk about accounting as there's rules. So I loved when I first came into accounting, because there's black and white rules of what we have to do, the way that we categorize things, the way that we have to report things. However, the way that we as business owners interpret that accounting, that's up to us. And what we do with it, that's up to us. And so I appreciate you bringing these episodes forward for the listeners, because we have to take responsibility as business owners. Like, you are responsible. The day you filed that LLC, you became responsible to understand this information, to know this information, and to make business decisions. They're going to keep you in business to create a healthy, sustainable, profitable business.
Right. Exactly. And we can ask for help. We're not accountants. We're not financial advisors. We're not CPAs. we get these people on our team so that they can provide the information and they can help us make these objective decisions. Danielle's not telling you go out and get an accounting degree. She's saying get the right people on your team that they can, I hate to use words manipulate because manipulate sounds like bad, but they can present the numbers to you in
Yes,
such a
provide.
way, provide that you can then see the different strategies of like, which is going to get me there faster, which will get me there slower. If I plan this out for 12 months, what will that look like? Right. So we don't have to become CPAs. And by the way, I'm a very big believer we can all learn. Like business is not only for people that have MBAs. All of us can learn the information we need to learn to be successful. And Danielle says this all the time. That whole like, I'm not a numbers person, it's fucking bullshit. I'm sorry. Like being a numbers person, yes or no? And are some people better at math than others? Yes, of course they are. But you don't have to be a numbers person to understand what's happening in your business by looking at your numbers. Okay.
Have to drop the excuses.
Yes,
That's an excuse
it's an
to
excuse.
not have to take responsibility. So whoever's tuning into this episode, like you're already brave for making it this far, and you have the opportunity to take responsibility for your business and your business decisions.
Yeah. And you just learn. It's a process, right? You don't have to be a master at your P&L from day one. You
No,
figure it out.
your job really isn't to be a master of the P&L at all, right? Your bookkeeper, that's their job to be the master. What your job is to do the critical thinking. So I always tell people there's nothing that I can do. There's no report. There's no, we send all of our clients what we call the snapshot. But the snapshot or any other snapshot, it is not going to do the thinking for you. I can't actually do that. I can provide you with all the information, but then you as a business owner have to actually think and consider the information provided and then decide how you're going to use it in your business.
Yeah, exactly. And my business is different than your business, is different than Sally's business, is different than, Rachel's business. And so we all have different goals. So let's get into, here's how I'd love to start, if that's okay with you. I'm going to kind of present a real life scenario, and I'd love to make it like I'm the business owner, you're my money team, and we together are going to decide what's the best decision in terms of investing in new equipment. Okay, so
Good.
I am Pilates in the Grove, and I have space to put in 3 new reformers. Okay, and so what I want to decide with my money team is the following. I've already done the research. Reformers are going to cost, let's say, $4,000 each when we include delivery, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a $12,000 investment. If we're meeting, what are some of the things that you are going to ask me about or look at when we're deciding is now the right time to do it, and how are we going to fund that investment?
So the first question I have for you is, why do we want to make this investment, right? Like, what are your goals? What is your intention for the year? So I always talk about our intentions first, because you have to know what is the purpose behind this investment? Are you in high growth mode? So why are we looking to buy
Yes.
this
So
equipment?
my feeling right now is most of our classes are sold out with a wait list. And I do have the space to put these new reformers in without sacrificing quality of service provided. So if I can fill these reformers, I can generate more revenue, which will also allow me to pay my instructors more, which will allow me to service more people in my community. So while I'm not in high growth mode, I'm at capacity and I want to find a way to generate more revenue.
Why does it bother you to be at capacity if you're not in high growth mode?
Oh, that's a great question. That is a great question. Okay. So now see, this is how I like real life scenarios, because I didn't actually think of that question. I would like to add more profit to the business so that I, as owner, can take home more salary without cutting into the top line revenue.
Okay. I want to talk about the options to fund it and go through that whole scenario. My question for you before you make the decision is, have you looked at all of your class schedules, the type of wait list you have? How long is the wait list? Do you really need this many reformers, right? Should we start with one reformer? Like what is the wait list? How, like, what does the wait list actually look like? And is this only for your, evening, one class each evening, or is this wait list happening throughout the day and that you really are hitting capacity issues throughout the day, or is it just your one evening class?
Yeah. First of all, I love these questions because I think for business owners, one, even that question for me made me think, and I was like, oh, I already wrote the outline for this episode. I was like, wait, there's a question. So I think it's really important to have a money team that's going to ask you these type of questions, right? And for you to truly decide, you're absolutely right. Is this because our entire schedule is full and we have people on a wait list that can't get in? Do we need three? Can we start with one? And the other thing that it just made me think about, are there places where we can just add times to the schedule instead of getting new equipment, right? The other thing, and I wonder if this is going to resonate with some of the audience. The question that you said about why does it matter to add more without, like, basically you're saying what's wrong with staying where you are without
Yeah.
growing. Okay. Um, I don't operate like that. As an individual, I have a really hard time staying in place. And to me, if I have a wait list, my thought process is it's leaving money on the table, and it feels weird to me as a business owner. So this kind of got off topic a little bit, but I would say if you asked me that, and I'd be like, no, but I can't just stand still.
So I would push back on you
Mm-hmm.
that maybe you should stand still.
Yeah.
Right? Are we adding another reformer because we want to keep up with somebody down the street? Are we adding another reformer because we think, air quote, we should? Do we think that we should add the reformer because we didn't grow last year and we like to see hockey stick growth? Everything I just said is ego. Like
Oh yeah, you're 100% right.
that's all ego. Like I have people who are on a wait list in my door and I have to make space for them. Well, maybe you don't. Like maybe the act is staying where you are and servicing the people you have in here really, really well.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't want anyone to take on debt because they feel like they should, or they got ants in their pants and they just can't stay put. And now look, this is from somebody who, my 2024 vibe is peace and calm because I am like a chicken with its head cut off all the time. And my team has to tell me no all the time. I want to do everything and I want to do it yesterday. I have a million new ideas. But do you know what we've done for 9 years? Is bookkeeping for business owners via the snapshot. Now, I had a million other add-ons that we could do. I have a million things that we could be doing for clients. I want to solve the world, but I am intentional that we do this and we do it really freaking well. And I don't have to solve everyone's problems. I don't have to solve your entire business. I have to solve this one problem. Now, I'm just using my business as an example for you.
Yeah.
You don't have to take on debt if you don't want
No,
to.
you're absolutely right. And that's a really good way to look at it. That is a really good way to, because a lot of it is, so many of us as high achievers, like you said, are like visionaries and we have these ideas and we're like, we can't take our foot off the gas pedal. And so I think it's great to be able to have that someone else just kind of saying, we could do this, but do we have to do this? Right. So let's get back to our scenario where I'm going to do it because currently I'm at a 10% profit margin, and I'd like to grow to industry standard, which we think is like, 50, like let's just say the 15% mark. Okay. So I'm at 10%. We are at capacity for the most part. Our classes are waitlisted. 90% of our classes are waitlisted. And I really want to grow that percentage, that profit percentage. And
You've
here's the
done
way I feel we can do it.
you've done
Yes.
the reflection and you know that this is right for you.
Correct. Right. So you're right. So we're going to grow because we want to increase our profit. So basically I'm a studio that I'm Pilates and Grove. Like I've been in business for, like, I'm not in that 1, 2, 3 year business mark where we're just growing that way. Right. I'm ready to increase my profit. Okay. So now I'm coming to you and I'm like, okay, what are you and I together looking at, maybe on, or let me not put words in your mouth, is the next thing that you would look at, looking at our financial statements to see if we have the money to pay outright, or are we devising a plan for what we want to do and how we want to invest in this new equipment?
So I do think that we have the option to be able to pay for these type of investments with our savings or cash on hand. However, I would argue that with interest rates and the high yield savings checking accounts right now, it might be advantageous for you to take on the debt and hold on to your savings. I also would have you ask yourself, like, what is your money personality type? And are you somebody who is less risk adverse? Meaning, like, I don't like taking on a ton of risk. So for me, I want to know at all times that I have 1 to 3 months worth of savings in my savings account. I want to know that I have my operating expenses covered. If something happened to me or my team, that I had operating expenses covered for 1 month. Um, I don't want to dip into my cash, but I know that that is my risk personality. If you're somebody who's like, I know that I got it. It's fine. I feel comfortable paying with cash. I'm going to give you a question. Are you doing that because you're actually afraid of debt? Right? Because there's just as many of us who feel more comfortable with the savings that are just as afraid of bringing on debt in your business. So there is a
Yeah,
happy,
that's me.
yeah.
We've talked about that. I'm the exact opposite of Danielle. So okay, so okay, so you're when do you, looking at numbers, then help someone if their money mindset is working against them? So like I'm the person that's, I don't love taking on debt. And pre-show, I was having this conversation with you, and again, there's no professional study on this. This is my own assessment, is that PTs, physical therapists, we take on so much debt coming out of school that I have a visceral reaction to that. I'm out of PT school for 25 years. I'm still paying back my student loans. And so for me to take on debt, I'd rather find the money to pay it cash. So you looking at the money, you're looking at the finances. When are you helping me realize your mindset might be working against what's best for the business at this point?
So that's an internal job. Like,
Okay.
we can ask you the questions, but part of you, that's an internal job. What I would ask yourself is, do you have a separate savings account where kind of like modified profit first? So you have a savings account where you transfer money for your taxes every month or quarter. So you know that you're saving because you're going to have to pay taxes at the end of each year. Then you have another one that is your savings account for a rainy day fund, where you have 1 month worth of operating expenses sitting in a savings account. Then account number 4 is like, I just want to save for some investments. I know the wait list is building. I see the wait list. So hopefully you've heard this episode, and it's about 6 months before you need the equipment. So you can start as your wait list is building, you can start putting that money into that 4th savings account where it's to start to buy this equipment. So if you have the time and space, you can set up those accounts and start moving those funds. So that's the numbers piece 4
Okay.
accounts. One's money in, money out. One is tax reserve that you're going to save throughout the entire year. Number 4 is a 1 month worth of operating expenses for your rainy day fund. The number 4 is like your profit savings account where you are saving to invest in something.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So for me, when I'm the business owner or when I'm helping other businesses think about, is this the right investment for them, et cetera, et cetera. I try to help them look at their ROI, which stands for return on investment. So if I am saying, let's just take one for easy numbers, the machine costs us $4,000. Okay. If I charge $30 for a reformer class for a person, okay, and I have, again, I'm just going to make even numbers, 10 classes a day, that could be an additional $300 in revenue if I fill that spot. So the way that I tell a business, or the way that I would look at it myself, right? And by the way, ladies, if you're looking at this, I don't look at this just in equipment. I look at it if this is a mastermind I want to invest in. I look at it if this is a new technology I want to invest in that's going to make my life easier or my service better. I look at it in a variety of ways, taking on an additional space, opening a new location, whatever that case may be. Okay. So I'm going to have to take out my calculator now for this because that's as good of
I know
math as I can do
I
in
was
my
getting
head.
my calculator.
So
Like,
if
where's she
we
going?
say $300, okay, an additional revenue a day. And I say, let's say I have those classes times 5 days a week. So it's $1,500. So I'm going to, again, that is saying that I'm going to fill all of my spots. But if I look at it and it costs me $4,000 in, a month, roughly, I will have earned the money I spent on my investment. Now, from a money side, is that something that you agree with, disagree with? Is there other things that I'm not taking into account?
I think what you're not taking into account there is our natural ability as visionaries to be optimistic.
Okay.
So in my corporate days, we would discount that. So I would take those numbers and then discount it. And I would also run a high and a low. So
Uh,
I might hit those numbers and then I would, that would be your baseline, right? Is that actually, I would say what you just said is probably your high because
it's the
you're saying
high.
I'm going to
I'm
fill
going to
it.
fill all these
Yeah.
spaces. Correct.
So then you're going to have a baseline one where you're filling about 50% of them, and then a low where you're only filling 25% of them. Because what I find that happens more often than not is that, and I love every single one of my visionaries. I love you guys. I am optimistic as well, but we're too optimistic and
Mhm.
then we can't pay back the debt.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So for me to feel, as a business owner, to feel more secure with my number, let's say of those 10 classes, 5 of them already have wait lists. So if I put one more machine in there, I already know that I have the client flow to get that one more person in, right? So that's more of what you're saying, like, oh no, you have 4 people on a wait list for 5 classes a day. One person will take that machine.
Yes.
But let's not assume that if there's not wait lists on these other classes, that it's not like if you build it, they will come, which I
Right.
don't agree. I agree that that's not true. That's like a double negative. So I can't figure out. I don't believe like if you build it, they will come. I don't believe that. So okay, so that's very good advice. Don't take the high, the middle, and the low. So like best case scenario, you return on your investment in a month. Worst case scenario, it could take 3 months, 4 months.
And then I like to play devil's advocate. So if nobody ever takes it,
Yeah.
how long would it take you to pay that back off? So when we're looking at making business decisions, we always have 2 methods at Kickstart. It's the look back, the look forward. So the look back method is over the last 12 months, if I would have had this expense, what would my financials have looked like? I'm not changing the revenue. I'm not adding the people in. I'm just playing worst case scenario. If I had this expense, what would my business have looked like? Then I can look forward and plan out the revenue with this new reformer added into it. But I think by looking back, you can understand how quickly you can pay it back without
Right.
if belly up.
Great. Great. So now we decided we're going to go in, all in. We're going to buy, we're going to invest. Okay. So let's talk about the different ways. Obviously, there's straight up, we'll pay cash for it, right?
Yep.
We have the cash reserves, we'll pay cash. Okay. I recommend, to me, this is just me. I'm curious what you think just as a business owner. I like to put it all on my credit card because I like to get miles and points on my credit card, and then I pay back my credit cards every month. I'm just curious, like, how do you, like, as a business owner?
We go on vacation. That's how we vacation. And
Perfect.
that's how
All
we
right. That's just me. And when business owners ask me, do you have a credit card you recommend? I just say it's always with a grain of salt because I love travel. And so I take a credit card I have an American Express that gives me points, and I have a American Airlines credit card that gives me miles because that's me personally.
and I have
So,
a Chase Reserve because I want the points. Here's the other thing I'll say is there's a lot of 0% interest credit cards for you. So
yep.
if you cannot, so I have like as one of the funding options is credit cards. You can go find a 0% interest credit card that will allow you to pay it off over a year. I think this is the easiest funding opportunity. People get so, how do I find debt? Like, how do I even find investments? Right there. Like you can easily get 12 to 18 months through credit. Now, if you don't have good credit, I would advise going to credit counseling now, not when you need it,
Yeah.
not when you need to buy something. Go to credit counseling right now. Repair your credit because you are going to want investment in the future, whether it be personally to buy a home, a car, or in your business. Fix your credit now so that you can purchase those credit. You can get those credit cards. Next would be the loans. And I think there's two types of loans. There's like the SBA loans, and then there's the online lenders. Like the online lenders, meaning like through your point of sale system, through QuickBooks, PayPal, Cabbage. Like, there's tons of online lending options now where that would be the next ease of finding credit would be those online lenders.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's great advice. When I built out my second location, one of the ways I funded the build out was a no interest credit card. And I put all of my equipment on there. I put some of the fees and all of that stuff on there. So just remember to pay it back before the interest
Oh yeah.
comes up because it's accrual. Okay. So you also talked about loans, and yes, Danielle's right. You can, like, PayPal sends me something all the time. I was like, you qualify for X amount, QuickBooks, Stripe, all of these online lending. You can also go through the SBA. Another thing is lines of credit. So do you want to explain what a line of credit is to people?
Yeah, a line of credit, and a lot of these online lenders are really kind of shaped like a line of credit because you pull down the funds when you need it and then you repay it. So it's available for you, and then as you need the funds, you pull it down and then repay it back. So like Cabbage works like a line of credit. Like I have access to it that we just will only touch if we ever need it. So if you have a line of credit available, and again, I suggest you do it now. Go talk to a bank, go talk to online lenders because you want access to the line of credit at any time that you might need it. You might want to hire somebody, you might want to make this purchase. Don't wait until you need it to then go knocking at your traditional bank because your traditional bank is going to have you submit so much paperwork, it's going to make your eyes bleed.
Yes, and it's true. I didn't even realize a line of credit was available to me for a long time while I was in business. And so I just figured out a way. I just call it like, it was basically like, I know how to make money scrappy for when I need money for something. And so I always had my things I would go back to generate the revenue. But I now have $100,000 line of credit that is in my bank, and I just draw from it when I need to. A lot of times my right hand, Lauren, will be the one I'm like, I need to pay this back. She's like, we don't need to pay it back right now. It's totally fine. It's doing its right worth. And I'm like, no, I just don't like seeing it on the balance sheet. But lines of credit, loans, credit cards, are there other ways that people can get creative in if they're ready to invest in anything in their business. We're talking equipment, but it could be
Yeah.
technology or anything.
So, one underutilized resource is grants through the state.
Mhm.
It might not be just equipment. Like in Ohio, we have a tech cred program, meaning that we can train our team using the grants through the state. That's one that we use as a resource on a continuous basis. But there's grants available at your state. If you take the time to look for them, you will find them. It takes time. The other one is investments such as like crowdfunding from your community or honeycomb. I have a very strong distaste to these. You know, I've just heard stories from clients through the years where they had this crowdfunding opportunity available to their community, and then it didn't sit well with after they received the funds from their clients. And so I would just say proceed with caution. Not saying it's
Mhm.
not available, but those are options where they can just gift the money, or that through Honeycomb, they loan you the money and you are paying interest back to that community who has invested with
Oh,
you.
yeah. I didn't know that about honeycomb. Yeah, some people do that. I know a gym here that did they did their own crowdsourcing within their specific client based, to expand. They wanted to take over the space next door, and because clients were asking for a bigger space, so they did something like that. You certainly can also finance the equipment a lot of times. A lot of places that you can buy will lease, basically, you can lease or finance the equipment. So instead of getting a loan, you can just say, I want to make monthly payments instead of pay in full. So
And
there's
I
always
would
those
rather
options.
you do that and
Mhm.
leave the creative lending for other things. Because you're buying equipment and you have that financing option, it's going to be really easy to obtain that. Again, especially if you have good credit. Go repair your
Mhm.
credit now. I keep saying it.
Yeah.
So you can easily get that loan and then keep the cabbage loan for, oh, I want to hire this team member, or I want to make an investment in this marketing strategy or something else that's not going to have that easy financing strategy.
Right. Right. I totally agree. I think when we use balance body equipment, and so the first couple times we financed our equipment over 12 months. It would be better on our P&L monthly. So when you talked about grants, I see your traction book behind you. So I actually paid for an EOS implementer through a grant that
Great.
I got from the state, and it cost $75,000, and I got 90% of it paid by the state by applying for a grant. So there are lots of ways. Again, like you said, it's almost like when kids apply to college, there's money out there. We just have to sometimes be creative in looking for it and completing the applications and things of that. Okay, so I'd love for you to talk a little bit about your feelings or your advice when it comes to debt. And it's really one of the reasons I love having you in the group, is because I am the opposite. Like, I just have a really hard time with debt. And so from your aspect as looking at many people's money, like finances behind it, um, talk a little bit, because you're the first person that I really heard say, like, it's okay to have debt. It's
Yes.
okay to have debt, and let's get over that means we're failing if we have debt. So I just love for you to give a little bit of your insight into that.
So getting comfortable with debt is going to allow you to grow as a business owner. We had a client last year who she had made some bad tax decisions because of her CPA, and ended up making a ton of purchases before the end of the year because their CPA said, go spend a bunch of money so you don't end up with a tax bill. Worst advice I could ever imagine somebody getting. Went and spent all this money, and then they were opening up a second location. They had no cash left. They spent it. So when she's like, I'm not giving up on my dream. So she went and took out a line of credit, some specific loans. Guess what? She's like 2.5 years in. That second location is now carrying her entire business. it carries
Crazy.
the other, the
Other location.
first location, right? And it was because she was willing to get comfortable with debt. And then personally, like I have a hard time giving up my cash. So like we bought a bed recently and they were like, "Do you want to finance it? We have 0%." I was like, "Hell yeah." Why would I give you my cash? My cash is going to go sit in the bank and earn 5% interest. And I'm going to utilize this debt for 0% interest. The money, the numbers tell you to go and take on debt. So I, even if it's not like, right, like my decision there was very easy. 0% interest debt and my cash is making money right now. If it's not apples to apples or it's not that clear, it, for me, it also makes me feel more secure to know that I have the cash sitting here. So if my cash is needed in other places, I can access it and I don't have to that debt is giving me the space and comfort I need to keep that cash in my business.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I love bringing that for me, because I think of debt very differently. And it's funny, I was just having this conversation with my husband. I finally need a new car because my car I have no payment on my car and I love it, but it's like dying a slow, painful death. And so I'm going to get a new car. And I was like, well, we have the cash. Why don't I just pay cash for the car? And he's like, no, why would
No.
you pay cash for it? Yeah. He's like, no, why would you pay cash for it? I'm like, because I could buy it outright and then I have no car payment. And he's like, no, because the interest rate on the finance in the car is way less
Yes.
than having it in the bank. And it's like listening to my husband in one ear. They're like,
Yeah.
no, we don't need to pay cash for the car. So, and I think, it's just interesting that you said that too, because just also, I think this is where, and Danielle talks about this a lot, it comes from growing up. I felt like I was raised by a single mom who lived paycheck to paycheck. So it felt like we were always in debt. And so the thought to me of like being able to pay something in cash in my mindset is, it's like it's
Our
crazy to me,
the
So it's
way
like,
the way that we
right?
grow up, it has so much to do with it. I mean, I think that's why I want the cash, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember my dad losing his job when I was young, and my mom was so upset because they didn't have a ton of money in savings. And so for me, I need that cash savings to know that I'm that if I lose my job, that
Yeah. You
I'm
have
gonna be
something.
that I'm gonna be
Yeah.
okay. So
Yeah.
I encourage you all to think through that. Like I know we're talking about investments and capital funding, but like what is your money mindset and what
100%.
what impacts.
Yeah. And I think it's important. We're two women here who are CEOs and founders of businesses and just have two different mindsets around money, both of us successful. And I think it's just great for other women to hear other sides of the story, right? Like hear other options and people being like, okay, so this is what we can do. And I think that's why I love bringing different women on this podcast. So everyone has a viewpoint and people can see themselves and, like, oh, that doesn't make me weird. It's just, this is where it comes from type thing. So, well, I hope you guys got some good information. This is a lot of stuff we talk about in the group of like, should I expand? Should I get a new reformer? Should I hire a PT? Why do I want to do it? And I think Danielle's question of like, well, why do you want to do this is a really big question. So do you have any final thoughts, Danielle, before we wrap up?
Um, use the numbers,
Mhm.
right? Don't be afraid of them. They are not your enemy. And take responsibility. It's a hard truth. A lot of us want to say, I'm not good with numbers. This feels too big. It feels too time consuming. It's your job as a business owner to make the business plan, to look at the numbers, to have a conversation with your money team, and ultimately to make the decision. Nobody's coming to save you. Krista can't tell you what the right decision is for you. Your money team, your bookkeeper can't tell you the right decision for you. So don't spend all your time booking calls with everybody and talking to everybody. Spend it reflecting on what you want. Like stop being
Right.
busy and think about what you want. What's your money mindset? What's best for your family? What's your goals? Not what you should do, but what's right for you. And then make the decision. Take
Yeah.
responsibility.
Don't abdicate the decision-making process. Gather all the information you need, but don't abdicate the decision making in the end. And so let's tell everyone where they can find info on you. And then you just updated your podcast name, which I think is great. So let everyone know, and we'll obviously link that all in the show notes.
Business by the Books is the podcast. Learn every single week how to use your numbers to make better business decisions and ultimately grow your business. KickstartAccountingInc.com is the website. So if you need help, we would love to be a resource for you. Thank you for having me again.
Oh, as always. And if you're interested in getting Danielle and strategic coaching from like my side and the money side from Danielle and Kickstart Accounting, our FitBiz Foundation's program for emerging business owners trying to break through the six-figure ceiling is open, always open for enrollment. Danielle and her team do one group call a month there. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. And you can find more information on that at kristagurka.com. And until next time, ladies, have a great one. And don't be afraid of debt. That's the lesson I'm going to learn from this
Don't be afraid of
episode.
debt.
Don't be afraid of debt. Bye for now.